And when he came near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now are they hid from thine eyes. For the day shall come upon thee that thy enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee. And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knowest not the time of thy visitation.
Will the dystopian world depicted by George Orwell's 1984 become a reality? According to Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, it just might. For those who haven't read it, 1984 is a dystopian novel written in 1949 that tried to predict a possible future. A future where a state called Oceania had every citizen monitored at all times by an all-knowing, all-seeing Big Brother.
Amnesty International conducted a 3-borough census of surveillance cameras in New York and found more than 15,000 cameras in public spaces.
This is just the part of the iceberg we can see.
A 2021 survey found that about 17% of American respondents own smart security cameras. Many were private doorbell cameras.
When you look at how many other brands of cameras there are out there, we're probably talking about hundreds of thousands of cameras.
These sensors have also become a lot more intelligent. They're able to identify moving objects, all of which makes the data much, much richer. Your life can be rewound and your secrets can be revealed.
A lot of people think Google's just a search box and Facebook's just a place to see what my friends are doing. What they don't realize is there's entire teams of engineers whose job is to use your psychology against you.
Everything they're doing online is being watched, is being tracked. Every single action you take is carefully monitored and recorded.
One of the reasons that your phone can deliver such extraordinary experiences, things like the fastest way to get home or a show or a podcast you might enjoy, is because it tracks you. It tracks information about your behavior and where you go in the world. Now, it turns out that a company is selling that information to police such that they can surveil millions of Americans in their most intimate habits, and they can do it without a warrant.
Pegasus can do things on your phone that you can't even do.
It can activate any function on your phone. It completely mirrors it. It can look for your cameras. It can also take pictures.
It accesses your messages, your history.
It can listen to what you say and it can also record you.
So yeah, Pegasus is pretty terrifying.
What NSO allows its customers to do is to break into your devices, usually your smartphone, and do anything on it you can do. They can get your location, they can get all your emails, they can get all of your social media, they can get all your pictures, they can get all of your video, they can turn on your microphone, they can turn on your camera. So it provides an incredibly granular map, not just of your life and your interests, but also of your relationships. And so for a government spy agency, to be able to get into someone's smartphone is an incredibly powerful tool.
In about 2014, 2015, I could hear clicking in and out of my cell phone. And I told my husband, I think they're listening to my cell phone calls.
Without any consent, without like any due cause or warrants or things like that?
Without any of that.
I mean, this sounds like a civil liberties nightmare.
It's very stressful. I mean, the harassment is everywhere.
You know, you look at a country like China that has like technological tracking of all of its citizens, facial recognition technology, social scores, all of these things. And I think people are like, the United States is never gonna be like China like that.
No, we absolutely will.
Now, what we've found in this process, that the people that were most interesting for those repressive regimes were actually investigators.
These are journalists, activists, opposition figures, religious figures, dissenters, people living in exile, community organizers, far from what anyone would imagine a so-called terrorist to be.
Immediate keyhole visual tasking. Target is on 20.
The surveillance ecosystem that could only be imagined back in the 1998 film Enemy of the State pretty much exists today, complete with smart cameras and high-altitude aerial imaging.
In the last 2 decades, cameras have gotten a lot cheaper, they've gotten smaller, they've gotten lighter.
A lot of the NYPD camera systems have 4K resolution, night vision capabilities, 360 monitoring, or have a swivel mount. They can zoom in. Some of them are even positioned where they can see into the bedrooms of New Yorkers.
Do you think Big Brother's watching you on the subways? You're absolutely right. That is our intent.
This company's marketing video shows an example of persistent wide area motion imagery, or WAMI. It allows for the tracking of potentially hundreds of individuals simultaneously. So once an incident is observed, law enforcement can rewind and track persons of interest in the area all the way back to their homes.
If you want to go back weeks in the footage and see everywhere an individual has been, you can do that because the camera is always recording the entire frame.
If you map the route you take to school, to work, to church, or to a mosque, you can't get there unseen. And in the age of facial recognition, that means you can't get there untracked.
The Transportation Security Administration is testing a controversial facial recognition technology, and it could be coming to an airport near you.
It was pretty
or
simultaneous, I think, to me going through the metal detector that I heard that over a loudspeaker. I heard them say, woman with long dark hair and gray scarf.
Did they say something about facial recognition?
I believe they did. I believe they said that our recognition picked you up, and they knew my name before I told it to them. They knew the firm that I was associated with before I told them, and they told me that I was not allowed to be there.
This whole scheme is a pretext for doing collective punishment on adversaries. The fact that they're using facial recognition technology to do this is frightening. It's just un-American to do this.
We see facial recognition firms like Clearview AI going onto social media sites like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and just scraping data, taking our images in bulk, downloading them, ingesting them into their database. Chances are that whoever you are watching this right now, your image is in a Clearview AI database, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Welcome back to Unfiltered. Listen, I've been warning you over and over, and now the Fed's saying the quiet part out loud. They want a digital currency. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the biggest surveillance tool you will ever see in human history.
Looking forward, rapid changes are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar in the future. And in light of the tremendous growth in crypto assets and stablecoins, we are examining whether a U.S. central bank digital currency would improve upon what is an already safe and efficient domestic payment system.
You've been sounding the alarm about these central bank digital currencies for a while, me as well. It's a big concern. This is the ultimate surveillance tool, isn't it?
Absolutely, and anonymity isn't even the worst of our problems. The worst of our problems is the fact that it's going to be programmable. Because it is digital, it means the money can be programmed to be spent in any way in which the central bank or the government decides.
And finally, the third way we think CBDC can improve financial inclusion is through what we call programmability. By programming CBDC, those money can be precisely targeted for what kind of people can own and what kind of use this money can
One
be
of my particular
utilized.
concerns is the World Economic Forum, because they're talking about implementing a carbon allowance. Now, this means each individual will be given a certain amount of, whether it's credit or whatever it is, carbon that they are allowed to emit. And how do they implement that? Through a central bank digital currency.
Those transaction data in terms of how many coffee I drink every day, where I buy coffee, do I use Uber every day, and what kind of working hours I have. Those non-traditional data can be very useful for financial service providers to give me a credit score.
So if I buy too many plane tickets, or if I buy too much meat, because those things are all supposedly very bad for the environment, my money when I go to fill up my car could then be declined. So now they're literally controlling what we can and can't do with our money.
Just swipe in, shop, and go. Amazon Go. The company launching their first full cashierless grocery store, expanding their similar convenience stores to a 10,000 square foot grocery space in Seattle for Amazon members. To enter, you need the Amazon app. Shoppers scan in at the turnstile, and then the same technology used in self-driving cars, cameras, sensors, and wireless communication track everything you take off the shelf.
So you can't even walk into Whole Foods unless you go through this machine? I need my own QR code. How do I get my own QR code? How do I get my own QR code?
According to Darren Burks at the independent website Vision News, Oxford County Council are planning on embarking in 2024 not on COVID lockdowns, but, as I and many others have long predicted, climate lockdowns. The Oxfordshire Council will place electronic gates on key roads in and out of the city, confining residents to their own neighbourhoods. Even the Times newspaper has reported on this travesty without batting an eyelid, that motorists will be fined simply for leaving their neighbourhood once too.
Welcome to dystopia. All our cities will probably end up now being broken up into precincts, like sci-fi films that were made predicting a dystopian future. You can't even travel into your next couple of roads now. There's going to be fines if you leave your area or your 15-minute zone more than twice a week. And I tell you what, when we're forced, well, a few of us, because most of us won't be able to afford it, into electric vehicles, those electric vehicles won't even go past the border. They'll be programmed so they don't. So you won't even be able to get the fine. It's terrifying, Mark. It really is.
Big news out in California. The state has voted to ban gas-powered cars by 2035. So in 13 years, all new cars sold in this state where I am right now must be free of greenhouse gas emissions like carbon dioxide, and that paves the way for electric and hydrogen-powered
Just under a
vehicles.
third of the UK's greenhouse gas emissions are produced by the transport sector. So, in an attempt to clean it up, it's out with the old gas guzzlers and in with the new electric vehicles.
Well, you don't even have to wait for the electric vehicle. I took a rental car from Budapest to drive into Ukraine a few months ago, and the car had been programmed in order to prevent me driving it into the war zone. The car had been programmed to die at the border. I couldn't figure out what had happened. It just stopped. And as I think I said on this show back then, if you think that's just going to be applied to Ukraine, no. And in fact, I think Joe Biden has just made it mandatory that all American cars have to have a kill switch in them by 2026. So there is actually now a governmental war on freedom of movement.
Also tonight, you may never need to go back to the DMV again. A Bay Area company has come up with a new digital license plate.
Through a monochromatic display, the so-called R plate allows drivers with the push of a few buttons on an app to customize their license plate with DMV-approved features.
Law enforcement really likes the R plate because it shows compliance. They also like the ability that if the vehicle was stolen, that they could actually track the plate, something that they can't do right
Lori
now.
Wilson co-authored the bill passed by the state, allowing for all 40 million drivers to use the tablet-like plate that can also show emergency messages like Amber Alerts and have built-in tracking technology to help law enforcement.
If a vehicle is stolen,
we can splash on that plate as a signal that that vehicle is stolen.
When we have another pandemic, we understand that to stop the spreading of the virus, we have to limit, not stop, the movement of the people.
Toby Young, I'm going to pick up with you on this. One of the things that concerned me, and I'll give it as a direct quote, was the comment, let's have a digital health certificate acknowledged by the World Health Organization. If you've been vaccinated or tested properly, then you can move around. Sorry?
Yeah, the implication is that if you don't have your electronic vaccine certificate on your mobile phone, then you won't be able to leave your home.
Here we are again.
Yeah.
Another moment where we were called conspiracy theorists for railing against the World Health Organization's plot when it comes to vaccine passports. And we were promised, weren't we? This is just for the pandemic.
Well, this is the way it works, Laura. It's like if you have these vaccine passports, they can support the same functionality as the China social credit system, which it surveils every aspect of a person and assigns a social credit score about how compliant you are. And if you combine that with the central bank digital currency, where the federal government is deciding whether or not you can spend your money, then they can just take your money away. They can sever you from your credit cards, from your bank account, and even from your ability. They can even empty your bank account if they deem that you are non-compliant.
There's been a huge push over the last few years to get every house to have a smart meter, but there is now a full admission that smart meters mean that twice every hour, energy companies can monitor exactly the amount of electricity. So I struggle to believe that smart meters are in the interest of the consumer. I think they're much more in the interest of the commercial companies that want us to have them. And I suspect once you've got a smart meter, in extremis, they could literally switch off your power.
In a dramatic attempt to deal with the public health crisis that has eluded mayors for decades, Mayor Adams announced his plan to take people with mental illness off city streets.
He's directed police and emergency medical workers to involuntarily hospitalize more of them, he says, to get them the help they need.
I know some people may look at what we're doing saying that we are trying to do something to take away the right of people. No, we're not. The right is that people should be able to live in dignity.
Now, the mayor's plan also includes an 11-point legislative agenda to fill in gaps in the mental health laws. The mayor said that the program could also be applied to those who aren't homeless. He urged New Yorkers to become what he called trauma identifiers and to call either 311 or 911 to get help for people they see are in need of help.
Christ gave his disciples a sign of the ruin to come on Jerusalem. When ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Just before the second coming of Christ, the nations of the world will unite to persecute the followers of Christ. Everywhere and in every nation, a movement is on foot to establish a system in which to compel the conscience and enslave the world. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. But he shall be saved out of it. He shall dwell on high. His place of defense shall be the munition of rocks. Bread shall be given him, his water shall be sure. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, for he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. Watch therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass.